The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the quiet suburban neighborhood. The streets were empty, the houses dark, and the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the cold autumn wind. It was Halloween night, and the air was thick with the promise of something strange. Emma and Jake had been walking home from a Halloween party, laughing and joking about the cheesy decorations and over-the-top costumes they'd seen. Emma was dressed as a 1950s pin-up girl, her red dress swishing as she walked, while Jake had thrown on a cheap vampire cape and plastic fangs. They were cutting through the park to save time, their footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves. "I still can't believe you thought that guy's zombie costume was real," Emma teased, nudging Jake with her elbow. Jake rolled his eyes. "Hey, it was convincing. He had, like, fake blood and everything." Emma laughed, but the sound died in her throat as a low, guttural growl echoed through the trees. They froze, glancing around. The park was eerily silent now, the wind suddenly still. "Did you hear that?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling. Jake nodded, his eyes wide. "Yeah. Let's just keep walking." They quickened their pace, but the growling grew louder, closer. Shadows seemed to move on their own, twisting and shifting in the corners of their vision. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she gripped Jake's arm. "Jake, something's not right," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could respond, a figure stepped out from behind a tree. It was a man, or at least, it had been a man. His skin was pale and rotting, his eyes glowing yellow, and his mouth twisted into a grotesque grin. Emma screamed, and Jake pulled her back as more figures emerged from the shadows. Zombies, their movements jerky and unnatural, surrounded them. "Run!" Jake shouted, grabbing Emma's hand. They took off, sprinting through the park as the zombies lurched after them. The once familiar paths seemed to twist and turn, leading them deeper into the darkness. Emma's breath came in ragged gasps, her dress snagging on branches as they ran. "We're not going to make it," she cried, glancing over her shoulder. Just as the zombies closed in, a loud, theatrical voice boomed through the air. "Welcome to the night of the living dead." Emma and Jake skidded to a halt, their eyes widening as the scene around them shifted. The zombies stopped, their grotesque faces breaking into mischievous grins. The trees seemed to part, revealing a stage lit by flickering lights. A man in a red jacket and slicked back hair stepped forward, his movements smooth and deliberate. "Relax, folks," he said with a wink. "It's all part of the show." Emma and Jake stared, their fear melting into confusion and then laughter as they realized they'd stumbled into some kind of Halloween performance. The zombies began to dance, their movements perfectly choreographed, and the man in the red jacket started to sing. "It's close to midnight, and something evil's lurking in the dark." Emma and Jake couldn't help but laugh, their earlier terror replaced by awe. They watched as the performance unfolded, the zombies dancing in unison, the music swelling, and the park transforming into a stage for the ultimate Halloween spectacle. By the time the show ended, Emma and Jake were clapping and cheering along with the small crowd that had gathered. The man in the red jacket took a bow, his grin wide and infectious. "Happy Halloween," he called out before disappearing into the shadows. As Emma and Jake walked home, their hearts still racing but their spirits lifted, they couldn't stop talking about what they'd just seen. "That was insane," Jake said, shaking his head. "I mean, who puts on a show like that?" Emma smiled, linking her arm with his. "I don't know, but it was amazing. Best Halloween ever." And as they disappeared into the night, the faint sound of laughter and music followed them, a reminder that sometimes, the scariest nights can turn into the most thrilling.